This coming Sunday night is a fight night. Ravens, Bills, Lamar, Josh Allen. The public's perception of who the MVP is will be decided this coming Sunday night. In this video, it's time for me to give you my opinion on why I think Lamar Jackson indeed is the NFL MVP. There's been a lot of discourse online, in the media, about why Josh Allen should be MVP over Lamar Jackson. And to me, it's just a lot of trash narratives when it comes to that, because we can really break this stuff down with these numbers and even more advanced ones to figure this out, right? So let's start with the QB record. A lot of folks are championing the fact that, well, Josh has 13 and Lamar has 12. That's cool if that's the case. If we're really saying that wins are a QB stat, which they're not, wins are a team stat anyway. But if we're really going to put that metric out there, that QB records should matter, cool, then why isn't Mahomes in the MVP race? He won 15 games. So if we're going to be champion, well, Josh has more wins than Lamar. Well, Mahomes has more wins than both of them. But no one is out here riding for Patrick Mahomes to get an MVP this year. So the fact that we're still trying to find a way to parse through the stats and talk about QB wins when there's someone that has more wins than both of these guys doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. If we're going to talk about the total touchdowns, that's been another thing. Well, you talk about the impact. Well, Josh Allen was as impactful as Lamar Jackson as both a runner and as a thrower, a passer of the ball. And while the statistics say that is true, Lamar obviously with more rushing yards, so he has more total yards. But when it comes to these total touchdowns, half of Josh Allen's rushing touchdowns were from the 1 yard line. Half, not a quarter, not a few, not a couple, half. Okay, so 12 of his rushing touchdowns, half of them, so that's 6, were from the 1 yard line and below. That to me is not as impactful, because if that's the case, again, we're going to put Jalen Hurts in this conversation because of the tush push. We're going to go back and retroactively give Cam Newton more MVPs because of him being an unstoppable weapon from the goal line. Or hell, let's even go and give Tom Brady even more MVPs because he was effective QB sneaking at the goal line as well. If this is going to be a metric in terms of why Josh Allen was greater and more valuable to his team this season than Lamar Jackson, then we need to go back and retroactively give a whole bunch of MVPs to a whole bunch of other QBs that were dominant inside the goal line. It's time to get into the strength of schedule. And this is something that's extremely important, right? It's often overlooked because it's something that's talked about in the beginning of the year and maybe at the end of the year if it matters, but it's something that's not really paid attention to throughout the season. This past season was no different. The Ravens had a stronger strength of schedule, i.e. they faced harder teams than the Buffalo Bills did, right? So therefore, Lamar faced tougher opponents than what Josh Allen did with the Bills, okay? That's the baseline. So on the Elon app, Sarah Ellison, who's tapped in with the Ravens, broke this stuff down and put the context out there that, yes, Josh Allen did play one less game than Lamar Jackson, because a lot of people are putting it out there, well, if Josh Allen played one more game, then, the statistics would have been even tighter, even closer. Cool. But let's talk about the averages per game. Because when we're talking about yards per attempt, Lamar is higher. Yards per pass, passing yards per game, Lamar is higher. Rushing yards average per rush, Lamar is higher. Rushing yards per game, Lamar is higher. Completion percentage, Lamar is higher. Passing TD percentage, Lamar is higher. Do you sense a theme happening here? Lamar Jackson is better in damn near every single metric compared to Josh Allen. And it doesn't matter that Josh Allen played one less game, because he's not making up these averages in the difference. He's not making up the differences to sway these averages in just one game. And it's statistically impossible for him to either tie or surpass these averages by playing one more regular season game. Continuing the theme of strength of schedule, when it comes to strength of schedule, it's often overlooked, especially, during the regular season. It's only brought up in times like these. So strength of schedule can have teams acting a fool. The Giants just did that a couple of years ago, where they had the easiest strength of schedule in the league, the easiest schedule throughout the entire league, and they won a bunch of games. I think they won 11 games, 12 games, made the playoffs to even beat the Vikings in the first round, right? On the road. So the Giants lost their damn mind that offseason, thinking that they had finally found their franchise QB, Daniel Jones, and they threw him a ton of money, $160 million, only to cut that man 2 years later because they ignored the fact that they faced the easiest strength of schedule that year when Daniel Jones played out of his mind. So strength of schedule matters. Who you played matters. So continued at that point, the 4 best records in 2024 versus winning teams. See the Chiefs here 8-2, the Lions here 7-2, Baltimore and Lamar 9-3, Eagles at 6-2. All other playoff teams, that includes Buffalo, combined were 30-43 versus winning teams. The Ravens' 9 wins versus winning teams is the second most in NFL history, only behind the 2023 Ravens. So the Ravens beat tough opponents. They beat winning teams. They beat teams with winning records. That has to be accounted for. So again, if we're really going to use the whole thing of wins are a QB stat, which again, they are not, but if we're going to use that metric, again, we have Mahomes here at 8-2 and 15 wins overall, and no one's putting him in this MVP conversation. And there's Lamar right there, only 1 loss behind him and 1 more victory than him. So he's even faced more than Mahomes, 9-3. I feel like throughout this regular season, there's been plenty of people in the media that have been handing this award to Josh Allen prematurely. And there's been moments. He had the moment against Kansas City, right? He played out of his mind, lit them boys up, right? And there's been a notion that, well, there's some Lamar Jackson MVP fatigue because he won it in 2019. He won it again last year. There's a notion like it's a LeBron thing or Jordan thing. Well, we're tired of giving him this award. Let's give it to somebody else. Let's give somebody else a chance. So why not Josh Allen? If we really want to break down game by game, I don't see how you can fathom giving this award to Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson. Let's go ahead and get into the game log, right? And again, we talked about strength of schedule and facing tough opponents. You see here opening week against the Chiefs, right? On the road in Kansas City, facing the champs, a team you lost to in the AFC Championship game last year. Lamar went in there, and if Isaiah Likely's foot was half an inch smaller, they tie that game up and take it to OT, and they had the momentum on that side if you believe in that type of thing. But let's look at Lamar's performance. This is almost 400 yards all-purpose. 400 yards all-purpose against a good defense in the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Then you see they come back to the crib, they take an L to the Raiders, but then they start running off wins. These 5 straight wins, including against Buffalo, by the way. That was a big one. So if we're talking about head-to-head matchups, again, wins are not a QB stat, but they want to make it so. The media, the blue check boys and girls, they want to make it so. Cool. Head-to-head, Lamar beat Josh Allen. Hard stop. His team faced that team, and his team won. Yet we're still having this discourse of why Josh Allen should be MVP. Now, while it wasn't a virtuoso performance with Lamar, you're still talking about over 250 yards all-purpose and a couple of touchdowns, 1 through the air and 1 on the ground. And again, he didn't hurt his team. The maturity, the maturation of what Lamar Jackson has done, it goes beyond just, well, he's a running quarterback and he has to learn to throw. It's controlling the offense, controlling the tempo, controlling the pace, controlling the game with his play. We can move on to the Cincinnati game where, Joe Burrow has become a dark horse candidate in some people's eyes in terms of MVP, and Lamar beat him too, and he beat him in a major way because, again, that vaunted Ravens defense gave up 38 points on the road to the Bengals. And Lamar went out there and put up, again, over 400 all-purpose yards with 4 touchdowns. So you're talking about when your team needs you, can you excel? Can you go that extra yard? Can you go that extra length to get the job done? And against a Joe Burrow who is lighting up his team's defense, Lamar went out there and put up 4 touchdowns and over 400 yards all-purpose. Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, who are in the second round of the playoffs, by the way, Lamar beat them too. So again, look at the teams that we're talking about. Buffalo beat them. Then that has Josh Allen. The Bengals. Joe Burrow, dark horse MVP candidate. Lamar beat him. The Commandos with Jaden Daniels. Lamar beat him. At Tampa, Baker Mayfield. Lamar beat him and beat him up in a major way. Again, over 300 yards all-purpose and 5 touchdowns. Look at what we're talking about here. Denver. Denver made it to the playoffs, blew their doors off. Almost another 300 all-purpose and 3 touchdowns for Lamar. Cincinnati again, so Burrow twice and shootouts twice because, again, that Ravens defense has not done their job this year. Lamar in 2 games against the Bengals had 8 touchdowns and almost 800 all-purpose yards. And this is going against a guy that some people are trying to sneak into this MVP conversation. He beat that team twice and outperformed that quarterback twice. If we want to get into even some of the losses, right? So even the Steelers game, the Eagles game, these are against top tier defenses, right? And even if you want to look at the QB rating, right? The passer rating, 66%. This is by far the only game where he was subpar, substandard the entire season. And again, he played all 17 games. Whereas if we go to Josh Allen, or when we go to Josh Allen, you'll see there is multiple games, including the one against Baltimore, where Josh Allen was subpar. Again, they beat the Chargers. Chargers were a playoff team. Beat them. 3 touchdowns. Beat Pittsburgh, so they split with Pittsburgh. Played well in the second game, got his revenge back, right? Houston, playoff team. Played well against them. 3 more touchdowns, okay? Now, let's go ahead and slide over into your man's Josh Allen. So you can see it, Josh Allen, right? Okay, Josh Allen. Arizona, killed them, trash team. Miami, killed them, trash team. Jacksonville, disgusting team, killed them. Then he went to Baltimore and was trash, okay? And look at this completion percentage, 55%. That in this league, in the National Checkdown League, 55%, that's piss poor production, okay? Again, couldn't get it at the goal line to get one of those cheap touchdowns, right? Couldn't get that off either. Then he went to Houston in the Stephon Diggs revenge game and was piss poor there. Okay, so Lamar played Houston, bust that ass. Josh Allen played Houston, piss poor. Make of that what you will. Beat the Jets. Jets are trash. Beat the Titans. Titans are trash. Beat the Seahawks. Seahawks did not make the playoffs. Miami, trash. Colts, trash. And then the one game that he excelled in a big spot. And again, look at these numbers. These numbers are not great, but he had the moment. Josh Allen had the moment, had to run a touchdown when they could have kicked the field goal, could have tried to run the timeout, but he stepped on the Chiefs' throat, got that win on, at the crib. It was a big moment, right? But then we look at the rest. Beat the 49ers. 49ers were a ravaged team by this point, an injury-ravaged team by this point. Lost to the Rams. Not necessarily Josh Allen's fault, but again, if wins are a QB stat that they're trying to make it because, Josh Allen's 13 is more than Lamar's 12, he lost this game. Okay? These are where the numbers start to get video game-like. This little run here. From the 49er game to the Lions game. That 3-game stretch is when people were really just trying to hand him the award because these are video game numbers. Video game numbers and video game-like production. 3 touchdowns against the Niners. 6 touchdowns against the Rams. And another 4 against the Lions, okay? So that's when the hype train, the media hype train was out of this world to try to get Josh Allen to MVP. But again, he beat the 49ers that were an injury-ravaged team. He lost to the Rams, who were a playoff team. And he beat the Lions, right? So we give him 2 quality wins out of this whole record, out of these 13 wins that people are going crazy about. There's only 2 quality wins here, right? You want to throw in the Seahawks because they were on the cusp of making the playoffs? Sure, right? But those are just 3. Out of 13, we're giving the man an MVP award for, having quality opponents in only less than a quarter of his games? Is that what we're doing? Let's get into advanced metrics, advanced analytics, right? So passing DVOA. Lamar is first. And if you need to know what DVOA is, I have it up here on the screen. You can pause and read it, screenshot it, whatever the case may be. But let's break down the metric. The metric shows that Lamar Jackson is first in passing DVOA. but Josh Allen is third, right? So that seems to be close, right? Like, so I get another category where Lamar and Josh are close, right? Wrong. Okay, so Lamar Jackson is indeed first, 51% value over average. Josh Allen indeed is third. He's only 27% value over average. 51 is a lot more than 27, bro. The chatter throughout the season online was about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry should be the MVP, and they crown him, give him the MVP, running backs, all that type of stuff, right? Well, there's data that shows that the Ravens are just as successful offensively with Lamar and Derrick Henry in the backfield as opposed to just Lamar being in the backfield with no Derrick Henry. Like, there's very little drop-off, if at all. So throw that out the window, right? And this Ravens team, let's be real, this Ravens team isn't as strong as they were last year, especially like across the board. Like, the defense has not been as good as it was last year. The kicking game, Justin Tucker has not looked the same. Like, we talk about the whole thing with the QB wins and how Josh Allen has one more QB win than Lamar Jackson. And again, wins are not a QB stat. But for this argument, if that's the case, then we could put some of those L's that are being attributed to Lamar Jackson on Justin Tucker. But that's now somehow Lamar's fault. Like, this is what Lamar has had to endure. He has had to endure a defense that hasn't looked the part, hasn't looked the same like they did last year, and he has had to endure a kicker that used to be automatic. Now maybe finally looking like someone who is his age. Another trash narrative throughout this whole regular season is that, well, Lamar Jackson has so much help. We're actually saying Lamar Jackson has help. The man who has had no help or little to no help. People are now trying to flip that narrative and say Lamar Jackson has now a lot of help. And Mark Slav is one of those ones that, you know, has really jumped out the window with that take. And I talked about that here on YouTube. I'll link it somewhere up here. But that discourse has continued, even though people like myself and others have like shot that down and shown you how trash of a take that is. The discourse still remains because these people have popular platforms and most people are stupid and they just want to listen to people who they deem as experts and just take their opinion as gospel, right? Be that as it may. It's a dumb take. It's a ridiculous take. Lamar Jackson's first round talent. Let me know if you want me to do this video, right? But I went and did the research already, so I have it in the talk. These first round talent that everyone keeps clamoring about that Lamar Jackson's been given, you can go back and look at those same draft classes and find receivers that have outperformed those first round picks. And we're not talking about like a second round pick outperforming the first round pick. We're talking like third and fourth round receivers have outperformed or have extremely aligned stats with the first round receivers that everyone is claiming. Well, they've given them first round receivers, but maybe they aren't picking the right first round receivers. But be that as it may, Josh Allen had this year to do it with little to no talent. He had to do it the Lamar way this year. Now, the fact that people are trying to give him the award because he had little to no help, but yet they didn't want to give this same award to Lamar Jackson the prior two times with little to no help is laughable. It's laughable. And it reeks of a bias because it ignores the fact that the Bills had a top-tier offensive line. James Cook is a really good top 5 running back in this league. And then they went and they made a trade to go get him a true bona fide number 1 wide receiver in Amari Cooper. Yet there are people that are dying on the hill of Josh Allen had to do it all by himself this year. Make it make sense. What are we talking about here? Lamar Jackson, yes, they gave him Derrick Henry. You know what they also saddled him with? Nelson Aguilar. As a legitimate weapon, especially with injuries now to Zay Flowers. He's depending on Nelson Aguilar to get a Lombardi. Yet we're talking about Josh Allen not having no help, even though he had help last year in Stephon Diggs and ran him out of town. When it comes right down to it, we can parse these numbers all we want, but we watch the games. You watch the games. Lamar Jackson, his impact on this game, and I think, was it Steve Smith? Steve Smith said it as well. He's becoming the prototype. You can't grow him like Josh Allen everywhere. You can't grow him like Patrick Mahomes everywhere, but like that Steph Curry-like effect where everyone now wants to go get a running QB. Everyone now wants a dual threat QB. Remember, this used to be taboo. You used to have to go to the CFL. Warren Moon had to go to the CFL. Now we got Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson is now the prototype. The man that Bill Polian said should be a running back or a receiver is now the prototype for a quarterback in the National Checkdown League. When you become the prototype, you get all the spoils. Lamar Jackson is your MVP. Not because Josh Allen is trash, not because Josh Allen wasn't good enough, not because Josh Allen didn't really step up in the big spot. It's because Lamar Jackson beat him every which way possible. He beat him statistically in advanced metrics and not. He beat him on the field. He beat him in like-minded opponents. He beat him every which way possible. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. If you did, feel free to drop a like or subscribe. And if you're into sports talk or technology or, any of that type of stuff, content creation, whatever, this is what I tend to talk about here on this channel. So if you're into that type of content, feel free to subscribe and tap in. And I'll catch you the next time I feel like making a video. Peace.